Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Only one country, tiny little Bhutan, wedged between China and India, has adopted the gross national happiness as the central index of government policy, and actually has a good deal of success in education and in health and in economic growth and in environmental preservation. And they have a rather sophisticated way of measuring the effects of different policies on people's happiness. But they are the only country to go that far. But you are now beginning to get other countries interested enough to do kind of white paper policy analyses about happiness research. What effects would it have if we used it more for public policy? You are beginning to get countries like Australia, France, Great Britain that are considering publishing regular statistics on happiness. So it is beginning to become a subject of greater interest for policymakers and legislators in different advanced countries.
There's sugar in a lot of foods where you don't expect it. Of course there's lots of sugar in donuts of ice cream, or pastries, or other things that are sweet, candy of course, but there are other places where you see it and you don't necessarily expect it. So as an example, peanut butter. Here's a list of ingredients from Skippy peanut butter and you see that sugar is the second most common ingredient. So that you may know from the reading food labels that these ingredients in any food labels that are listed in order of how much there is in the food itself, so sugar comes right after peanuts. Here's another example, beef stew. You wouldn't necessarily expect it to find sugar in beef stew but it's there. Now it's down the list of ingredients, it's actually toward the end, but if you look at the marketing of this in food at the can, it says, there are fresh potatoes and carrots, but actually there's more sugar in this than there is carrots. And so you wouldn't eat something like beef stew and expect to find this to be the case.
Soot, which comes from combustion of many different things, is black, so it's a strong absorber. In fact, it's second only to CO2 in terms of warming, so it's actually ahead of methane, which you hear a lot about. The interesting thing about soot and aerosols' impact on climate is that their lifetimes are so much shorter. So if we can reduce the soot, we can make changes within months versus tens of years. It's not to say we should ignore the CO2 and the greenhouse gases, but it could buy us some time while we actually do the right strategies to reduce the greenhouse gases.
The milk is not typical of all monasteries for many reasons. Firstly, it is very grand, which most especially later foundations aren't. Secondly, it was founded in the countryside, whereas in 17th and 18th centuries, a good proportion of foundations were made in towns. Thirdly, it still owns a substantial amount of land, because fourthly it lies in the Austrian Republic, the only European country where grand old monasteries have been in continuous existence since they were founded 900, 1000, even in one case 1200 years ago.
Aquaculture, the farming of fish, shrimp, shellfish, and seaweeds, has been the sources of human protein for nearly 4,000 years, especially in Asia. In the last decade, however, there has been unprecedented growth in aquaculture production, more than 300% since 1984, which has increased the importance of the modern food supply. It's the world's fastest-growing food production activity. And globally, more than 25% of the odd fishing and shellfish production in 1999 was attributable to aquaculture. Yes, this industry's contributions to human diet is actually greater than the numbers imply, whereas 1/3 of the conventional fish catch is used to make fish meal and fish oil. Virtually all farmed fish are used as human food. Today, nearly 1/3 of fish consumed by human is the product of aquaculture, and that percentage will only increase as aquaculture expands the world's conventional fish catch, for the oceans and lakes continues to decline because of overfishing and environmental damage.
Audio Jungle.